Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to Hot Mic. Thanks for joining us however you are on WDAY Extra. Hello to our friends in South Dakota, tuned in on KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com. Here we are, middle of the week. We made it. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like this week's flying by. It's been a fun time. Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo. Once again, I'll be here for the rest of the week. He is off taking some well-deserved vacation time here at the middle part of June before we kick into gear next week with a lot of stuff happening. We have the Bell Bank Red River Am next week. Cody Mauk is in Wahpeton with his football camp. Dom will be down there for that. I believe that's on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So he'll be back to join us next week for a full slate of stuff going on to wrap up the month of June. I'll tell you what, I've noticed this since I've been in here for the last couple, coming on 3 days now this week, filling in for Dom. And for those of you that don't know me, you know that I am not a morning guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I feel like being here this week, I'm starting to get my sleep schedule to a normal person sleep schedule, which is a big win for me. I'll take that any day of the week. Now, with that being said, I've drank more coffee over the last 3 days than I ever have in my entire life, but that's besides the point. I've also come to find out that our guy Eric in the back has been on a kick of Mountain Dew donuts. Is that right, Eric? Throughout the week. So we are on sugar highs right now. We'll try not to crash as we get over hump day here on this late part of June, middle part of June, 17th day of June in the year 2026. We appreciate you for joining us. We got a loaded show for you today. Really excited about this one. Some great guests are going to join us over the next couple of hours. Today we have the much anticipated return of an old friend in Gene Taylor. He will join us in a little less than a half hour or so. Of course, he is the former North Dakota State athletic director, now the director of athletics over at Kansas State. A lot to touch on with Gene. He is in town this week for Roger Maris All-Star Week and the festivities that come with that, and he's gracious enough to give us some time here on this Wednesday morning, which is fantastic. Of course, the whole country is talking about this Brendan Sorsby gambling saga and the updates that have come with that over the last couple of days, him hopping into or potentially trying to hop into the NFL supplemental draft. He still has to be approved for that. Gene has been outspoken on that topic, so we'll reopen that with him later on this morning. Of course, we'll get his reaction to all the news around North Dakota State. We'll see if we can get anything, any progress updates on bowl eligibility for NDSU, the 5-for-5 rule, you name it. A lot to touch on with Gene Taylor coming up at the bottom of the hour to help start off our show on this Wednesday morning. So looking forward to that. Later this morning, in the second hour of the show, West Fargo Cheyenne volleyball star Baylor Dinger will join us. Start hour number 2. She announced yesterday she will play for the Utah Utes after her time at West Fargo Cheyenne has concluded. Still has a couple of years left over there. So it is a Big 12 theme today, if you will. Looking forward to that conversation coming up in the 10 o'clock hour. Also, I'm amazed. We've been talking about it. Of course, the NHL playoffs have wrapped up a couple of days ago now on Sunday with Carolina winning the Stanley Cup. I'm amazed at this point in June how vibrant and how many news headlines are coming out of the world of hockey right now. We got the NHL draft coming up next Friday and Saturday. And we'll welcome on Brad Schlossman, our guy from the Grand Forks Herald. He'll come and join us to help wrap up the show this morning, talk about the NHL draft and see how many UND guys are in the fold there. There's a couple that could go in the top 10, so we'll talk about that, get his reaction on the Stanley Cup playoffs, and also see what the Wild got to do in this upcoming offseason for it to be a successful couple of months here heading into next season. So I tell you what, for it being the middle of summer, June 17th, and to have those three powerhouse guests coming on, that's pretty good. I'm excited for this today, so let's roll into it. A lot going on yesterday. Of course, you had the World Cup. WNBA is in full swing, which we will get to at some point over the next couple of days. The Minnesota Lynx are phenomenal right now. We'll get you an update on them at some point this week. But my attention yesterday was on the diamond, and it was a packed day for not just professional baseball, but for college baseball as well in the College World Series. It was elimination day. Let's recap some of the action from yesterday. I want to start with the Minnesota Twins, who, look out, folks, they're getting hot again. Seems to be a common trend. A couple times a year, they just go on a tear, and things are looking good for a while. But it never seems to materialize into something long-term. Maybe this is the year. Taking on the Rangers last night for Game 2 of this series on the road. Trevor Larnach starting things off at the top of the first on a high note. 433-foot bomb to right field, his fourth homer of the season. Josh Bell would follow that up with an RBI single to left center field. Byron Buxton would come in to score. So it's a 2-0 lead as we go to the third. And then Cody Clemens with a 3-run home run of his own. His 11th homer of the year. That would score Buxton and Trevor Larnach. So 5-0 at this point in the top of the third for the Minnesota Twins. They would continue to tack on. Moving on to the top of the fourth, Royce Lewis, a 2-run single to deep center field. Clemens goes to third, Buxton in to score, Alex Jackson in to score as well. 7-0 Twins, and they're not done there. Josh Bell with a 2-run double to right center field. That would score Lewis and Clemens. 9-0 Twins. How many times has Minnesota been on the other side of this? It's great to see it actually happen to the Twinkies last night. Now, Luke Keyshaw, also in the top of the fourth, wanted to help out Minnesota a little bit. RBI single for him. 10-0. Holy cow, what's going on? Now, the Rangers would start to come back a little bit in this game. Ezekiel Duran into a fielder's choice. Wyatt Langford come in to score. 10-1. That's all right. They can have one. That's fine. Bottom of the fifth. Elias Diaz hits an RBI double to deep center field. That would score a run. 10-2 at this point. At this point, you're hoping the Twins don't blow it away and they can hold on to this 8-run lead, and they were able to do so. Top of the ninth was fun. The Rangers put in a position player to handle the duties on the bump. Alex Jackson with an RBI double to deep right center field. Luke Keyshaw would come in to score. 11-2 at this point. And then the Twins would just run away with it. They'd tack on one more. 12-2 the final score. Tip of the cap to the Minnesota Twins for getting the job done in Game 2 of this series. They now lead the series 2-0 after their 4-2 win the other day down in Texas to open up this road slate. This is the first time for the Minnesota Twins they've put up double digits in a game since May 5th. It's been a while. There's been so many times since then where opposing teams have put up double digits on the Twins, but it's nice to finally see it flip the other way. Trevor Larnach, a phenomenal game, had that home run, 3 singles in there as well, run batted in, went 4 for 6 on the day. Zebby Matthews, solid, 7 innings, gave up 8 hits, just the 2 runs, 4 strikeouts. Twins got to Kumar Rocker, who started the day for the Rangers. He went 3 1/3, gave up 6 earned runs, 7 total, with 4 strikeouts. Also a good sign yesterday, Kyler Fetko, who was just pulled up to the Minnesota Twins the other day to open up the series, made his debut in Game 1. He had an RBI in the game. It came in the 9th off of a position player. It was a sac fly, but still good sign there. Now, for Minnesota, they have today off. They are not playing today, so don't worry about trying to find them on Twins TV or anything like that. They will actually play tomorrow to wrap up this series against the Texas Rangers. Pretty good pitching matchup in that one between Joe Ryan and Jack Whiter. So be sure to tune into that one coming up tomorrow because they are off today, and then they will continue their road trip. I believe Arizona is next. And a reminder, we will have our guy Corey Provis on Friday. Talk about the latest happening with the Twins, get his thoughts on this series and the upcoming series, which are pretty big. Dodgers coming up on the schedule pretty soon. Now, the story with the Twins over the last couple of weeks has really been their ability to hit the long ball. I looked it up this morning. 20 home runs in the last 10 games. We're getting flashbacks to the Bomba squad from a couple of years back for the Minnesota Twins. They are lighting it up at the plate. I had a conversation with Eric about this before we came on the air. It just seems like every single year there's flashes in the pan where you get instances like this or stretches like this where they're winning series against the Cardinals, which was the first time since the beginning of this month. Now they're going to win this series, obviously, against Texas 2-0 right now with Game 3 coming up later on this week. Things are trending upwards. How long is this going to maintain for Minnesota? It seems like every single year it dies out. Now, Eric reminded me that last year they had this, and it was earlier in the season than it is now, but I will remind you that we're not even to the All-Star break yet, so we still got a lot of season left to go. But congratulations to the Twins. They're now 35-40 right now, with one more game left to go against the Rangers. Also yesterday on the college baseball side of things, the College World Series still going on in Omaha. This has been a very fun tournament to keep tabs on over the last couple of weeks. Yesterday was interesting. It was Elimination Day in Omaha, and the day started with a loser-out matchup between two of the best stories, in my opinion, in college baseball this season. That's West Virginia, who their fan base has taken the world over by storm, and Troy, the mid-major team that knocked off Ole Miss earlier this week to take them out of the College World Series. Now they're looking to advance to the semis for the first time, but West Virginia did not make it easy. This is how it went yesterday. They came out guns a-blazing. Gravelin had that double to make it a 2-0 lead. Then we go to the 6th inning. 2 men on for Gavin Kelly. Drive to deep left center. It sneaks over the wall for a 3-run homer. 5-0 at this point. That is Kelly's 5th home run of the tournament so far, and West Virginia would just cruise. 12-0. They stay alive in the tournament. They will play today. It's a quick turnaround for them. They have North Carolina coming up. Old friend Jake Schaffner, former Bison, who is the leadoff guy for the Tar Heels. He will see West Virginia today. Now, I had this thought come across my head the other day just watching the College World Series. There's been a ton of home runs this year. I feel every time I turn it on, it seems like a ball is going over the wall. Now, I understand this ballpark is somewhat favorable for the long ball hitter, but I feel like we are getting our money's worth in this College World Series. And I remember way back in the day, what were they, BB Core bats, where they had to ban those because too many people were hitting home runs, and that went over not too well. The fans want to see home runs, but it got to the point where it was almost a little dangerous because the ball was coming off of the bats a little too quickly, and that could put the position players in some trouble. But now we're seeing the return of the long ball, and it has been awesome. One of the teams that has excelled this year, led the country in home runs, is Georgia. And they were in Game 2 last night against Texas in an elimination game. These were the top 2 teams in the SEC this season. Same deal for them. Lose and you go home. And Texas pitcher Lucas Harrison really was dealing early yesterday. Top of the 4th, no score. Gets Michael O'Shaughnessy swinging. Harrison had 9 strikeouts in the game up to that point. Then 2 batters later, he would get Ryan Wynn swinging, so 10 strikeouts. But we go to the top of the 5th. Trey Phelps with a drive to left field for a base hit. That would score a run. 1-0 at this point, and this is where things got interesting. Fly ball to center field. Darian Pendergrass comes in to make the diving catch, but wait a minute. Now we got to bring in our NFL knowledge and see if that was a catch. Did he have possession or not? They would say no. So still no outs for Georgia. And then in the 7th still, runners on the corners. A collision at the line, play at the plate coming. Throw looks like it's on time, but the tag is not there. So Georgia would take a 2-0 lead. First of all, props for making the catch. Great slide here to avoid the tag. Great throw. Fantastic fundamentals all around, if you will. But Georgia would take a 2-0 lead. We go to the bottom of the 8th. 2 outs. Texas with 2 runners on base. Adrian Rodriguez, who's been phenomenal for Texas. Ground ball to first. And that would end the inning. And eventually, Georgia would slam the door on Texas. So one of the top teams in the SEC, the Longhorns, are no longer in the picture for an NCAA national championship in the sport of college baseball. This is where we sit with the semis starting today. And again, it's double elimination. So this is where things get interesting for teams like Georgia and like West Virginia. Gotta win twice to advance to the championship. For North Carolina and for Oklahoma, they only have to win once, and they advance. West Virginia's been playing hot. As we showed you, they had the 12-0 win the other day. North Carolina is unbeaten so far in this tournament. Jake Schaffner's been playing very well. We'll see if North Carolina can hold on in this one and advance to the College World Series, which would also be a great story. Oklahoma's been strong. Of course, that is the home to a guy we're familiar with in this neck of the woods, Drew Rarick. He's not pitching for the Sooners. He is out with an injury, but they are unbeaten as well going up against Georgia. So 1 o'clock on ESPN and 6 o'clock on ESPN, and we'll see what comes out of that. If they need another game, that would be played later on this week. If not, the championship series played in a couple of days as well. So the College World Series has been fantastic. It's been fun to follow along with, no doubt. If I had to make my picks right now, I would say North Carolina advances to the championship series, and I'll go with Georgia. I'm impressed with Georgia. Team that led the country in home runs this year. If you haven't watched Daniel Jackson, their catcher, he has been taking over the baseball world by storm right now. His numbers are equivalent to what big leaguers put up in their entire season, and he has hit the long ball pretty well down in Omaha over the last couple of weeks. Trey Phelps, who you saw in that highlight reel as well, he's been phenomenal for Georgia. So I might put my cap in the ring of Georgia, and they might get it done against Oklahoma. So we'll see. Those games coming up later on tonight. We'll remind you of that later on this morning. All right, with that being said, as I told you at the beginning of the show, we got a great group of guests joining us here this morning. Our guest lineup brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Gene Taylor joining us in a couple of minutes at the bottom of the hour, 9:35. He is the Director of Athletics over at Kansas State. A lot to talk about with Gene, so looking forward to that conversation. To start hour number 2, Baylor Dinger, one of the best liberos in North Dakota history already, announced her commitment to Utah yesterday. She will join us in studio in the 10 o'clock hour to talk about her decision to become a Ute after a time with the West Fargo Cheyenne Mustangs comes to a close. And then at 10:35, our guy Brad Schlossman from the Grand Forks Herald will join us, preview the NHL draft, get his thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs and the conclusion of that one. Also see if what the Wild have to do in order to have a good offseason. So a lot going on the rest of the morning. Looking forward to all those conversations coming up in a couple of minutes. When we come back, some news from the Vikings yesterday. Do you care? Do you not care? Some front office additions. We'll talk about that coming up on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Welcome back on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo today. Thanks for joining us, however you are. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com. Usually, at this point, we would have our guy Drew Trafton onto the show. He is out today. No Drew today. I believe he is in Seattle taking in some World Cup action this week. Gene Taylor will join us in a couple of minutes. Looking forward to that conversation. Before we get to that, wanted to pass along some headlines from yesterday just to keep you up to date on things, especially with the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings announced yesterday that they've made some additions to their front office. The organization announced that they've hired a former foe in ex-Chicago Bears general manager Ryan Pace, and he will join the team as an advisor. Pace was with the Bears for 6 years, spent the last 4 years with the Falcons, and now hopefully he will give some sound advice to new general manager Nolan Teasley, who came over from Seattle earlier this month. We'll see how that all goes. Always good to have some veteran minds in the front office. There's no doubt about that. Also yesterday, the Vikings announced they grabbed Azam Kapadia. He will become the new assistant director of pro scouting. Now, he spent the last 3 seasons with Seattle. So you see the connection there with Teasley. Honestly, in my opinion, for Minnesota and what Teasley is doing, I don't think it's the worst idea to grab as many Seattle guys as you can. They seem to have their stuff in a group over there, so why not try to bring that over to the Midwest and help out this franchise that has some big questions heading into this upcoming season. Also yesterday, in the same breath there was some interesting roster moves as they signed a tight end in Marshall Lang and a defensive lineman in Javari Ritzy. Now you may be saying, who and who? I did, that's for sure. But Lang is another guy with ties to the Seahawks. And now I believe that number is up to a total of 4 guys that Teasley has brought over from Seattle. So we'll see what happens there. Be interested to see how the quarterback battle heads up this season as well between J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray. It's going to be an interesting year coming up. So some minor Minnesota Vikings news for you. Do you care? Do you not care? We will find out. With that being said, we got some bigger fish to fry this morning. Director of Athletics from Kansas State, Gene Taylor, joining us on the other side of this break. Looking forward to this conversation. A lot to get to with Gene as we come back on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Beautiful start to this Wednesday morning weather-wise. That's been the case all throughout the week. Appreciate you for joining us. Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo this week. Very excited for this upcoming conversation here. Gene Taylor, an old friend of ours, joining us here on this Wednesday morning. Former North Dakota State athletic director, now the director of athletics over at Kansas State. You and Chris Kleiman in town for Roger Maris All-Star Week. How does it feel to be back in town?
Yeah, it's great. It's been a minute. We flew in different times. My wife and I flew in last night. I got in the airport. I'm like, whoa. The airport is awesome.
Yeah, a lot of renovations there.
Yeah, in the cities, that's a beautiful facility. So, it's been a while. I'm trying to remember. I think the last time I was here was for North Dakota State game a couple of years ago. But it's been a while, so it's good to be back.
I believe we had you on Bison game day that day. I think the last time you were on this show was when Dom was out at the Big 12 Media Days a couple of years ago before North Dakota State and Colorado. So it's great to catch up with you once again. I believe that last time you were in town and we had you on Bison game day, mentioned what are the chances of North Dakota State making it to FBS? And you said hopefully pretty high, and now that's become reality. What was your reaction to that news when that all came down?
I'm just really proud of Matt and everybody that had a part of that. I think it was the right time. Mm-hmm. It was the right move. It was something that they probably had been working on for a while, and it just makes so much sense. And there's a lot of similarities from the time we moved from Division II to Division I, and the reasons behind that for them to go from FCS to FBS. And I'm fortunately on a couple of I'm on the football oversight committee, so I've been able to be a little part of seeing their transition and doing what I can to help. But I'm just really proud of them, and Coach Polasek and his staff will be ready for the move, and I think the fans are probably ready for it as well.
Right. Right. You get some rejuvenation there. Obviously, it's not like things were bad, but when you have success for so long, things can get a little mundane at points, right? Yeah.
And again, it's similar. When we were Division II, a lot of the Division II powerhouses started to move up to FCS. The Northern Iowas and those schools that North Dakota State used to compete against. And then same now. You lose the James Madisons and the App States and.
Right.
And they've proven what they don't need to prove anymore at the FCS level with the number of championships they've had. And again, I think this move is a perfect move for them and a perfect conference, and they'll have a lot of success early, in my opinion.
Gloria Navarez, the Mountain West commissioner, said the same thing. Just when you look at culture, geography, it is the best fit possible right now. And your knowledge of Mountain West and the FBS, do you feel like North Dakota State could have some success at this level?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, as we know, North Dakota State's had a lot of success against FBS programs over the years. Matter of fact, so much so Matt's having a hard time scheduling. They used to have a hard time scheduling. So I do think. I think, obviously, they're going to have to make some adjustments. I think Paul Sick and his staff from a recruiting perspective, but they've got a really good team and a really good base to start from. And, one of the things we talked about at the Football Oversight Committee is, if they win 6 games, should they be able to just automatically go ahead and qualify for bowl games so they don't have to go through the waiver process? And I will tell you the Football Oversight Committee is very supportive of that just because not only the type of program they have, but the commitment they're making financially to make the move.
Right.
And if they win 6 games, absolutely, you should be able to play in a bowl game.
I wanted to ask you about that because that is something North Dakota State fans are waiting on pins and needles for, waiting for the Division I cabinet to put the final say on that. When that hit your guys' meeting rooms, what was the conversation there? And I believe Matt Larson brought this up, that it feels like that rule it just hasn't kept up with the landscape of college football.
Well, a couple of things. I think in some of the earlier transitions, the financial commitment to make that move wasn't there. I think it was $5,000 at one point. And so I think there was some concern, are they really ready to make that move? Well, North Dakota State, it has a different reputation than some of the schools that have made the move to FCS, to FBS. There was a financial commitment. And that was one of the comments in the room. And I actually didn't really speak up because everybody knows my ties,
right?
Unless I felt I needed to. But everybody in the room was like, well, they're paying $5 million. They're in a conference. If they win 6 games, why would we make them go through the waiver process? And so it was a pretty easy conversation. So we passed it out of the Football Oversight, and it sits, like you said, now in the cabinet. I think they meet next week.
Okay.
I'm going to certainly talk to our 2 Big 12 representatives on it and say, let's make sure we support this. So I would be surprised if it doesn't get support, but we'll need to do everything we can to make sure it does.
If that comes to fruition, they win the 6 games or however it is, and they get that bowl eligibility, what's going to be running through your mind if they have the opportunity to play a bowl game this year or even down in the future?
I'm excited again for the fan base. The bowls are different. Obviously, the FCS playoffs is tremendous. It was a lot of fun, and the years that I was able to be a part of it, and then being able to watch it over the last few years, making the runs to the championship. But the bowl game is different, but it's a fun experience. It's a fun experience for the fans, and who knows? We saw what James Madison did last year, making the CFP playoff, and those are down the road potentially, but it gives them that opportunity. They're in that level now, and they should. In the quality of program they have, I don't see any reason that they can't be there at some point.
What do you make of Tim Polasek and what he's been able to do up here, seeing it from afar?
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Obviously, known Tim for a long time, from the time he was a GA. Clem and I joke that Tim's life is 4th and 1 at all the time. He's obviously really intense. But he's just a really good football coach, and he gets the culture and what needs to happen here at North Dakota State in terms of how to build it. I think he's been at the FBS level, both at Power 4 and at Wyoming, and had some success as a coordinator. So he's ready. He's proven that he can win wherever he's been. So I think, and I don't know a lot of his staff. Obviously, I know a couple of guys on the staff, but it's certainly a program that has no problem making the transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Gene Taylor, the director of athletics from Kansas State, joining us while he's in town for Roger Maris All-Star Week. One of the topics I wanted to touch on with you, and I know this is something that Dom has been following heavily, is the 5-for-5 rule. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that could be decided next week as well. It's something that has been I feel like altered for a while just to make sure every sport has a say in this, because different sports have different deferred years they can allow before an athlete comes in. What is the update you can give us on this, and what are your thoughts on the 5-for-5 rule?
Yeah, we refer to it right now as the age-based eligibility, because the 5-for-5 again feels like it puts limits on athletes, and we try to stay out of court as much as we can. I think there's a lot of support for it. They've made some adjustments to it recently in terms of, I think it now starts at the 19th birthday and first-time enrollment at any sort of post-secondary education, whether junior college, NAIA. So I think it'll pass. I really do. I think it's something we need. A college athlete needs to be done after 5 years. And the good news about this is instead of a redshirt year, you can play 5. And whether you start in junior college and play 2 years in junior college, you'll have 3 years at the Division I level. And that's a good thing. I think that's one piece we have to fix, and I hope we do, which I think the cabinet will. And I think the other thing, we have to get back to one-time transfer. The multiple transfer years really causes a lot of problems, not only from a eligibility point, because that eventually graduation rates are going to catch up to us.
Yes.
And that's something we have to take a look at, but it's also a massive issue with the NIL and the rev share numbers and agents. But if we get to 5-for-5 or the age-based eligibility pass, that'll be a big first step.
Do you feel like we are heading into a direction here where more structure is coming into the college athletics after everything that happened with NIL and transfer portal?
I think what's happened is we've realized that this thing got out of the station so fast and it was so out of control that we have to go back and put in controls, and that's where the Protect College Sports Act is going to be big. I know it's being talked about, I think, this week in Washington, D.C. I think we have to put some controls back in our business. I mean, we're all for rev share and an athlete making true NIL, real NIL, but we have to get some controls, because right now the attorneys and judges are running our business, and we have to get back and run our own business, because it's still college athletics. They're still here to get an education and get their degree and graduate. If they get the opportunity to play at the next level, great. And while they're here, they should be compensated at a reasonable level. And I think that's one of the things we need to figure out, how to make sure we put some structure to that.
Have you had an opportunity to get your head above water at all with everything between your usual day duties and the committee at all? It's
been fun. I obviously, we've had a lot of excitement changes here at Kansas State this year with a new football coach and basketball coach. Those were certainly not on my bingo card this year, but we got through it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate to be able to sit on a couple of committees that I feel like at this point in my career I can have some decent impact, and so it's been fun to be a part of. It keeps you busy, and it's good I enjoy it, and I can at least have a voice now that at this point in my career I'm not too concerned about my next job. I'm happy to say what I feel, and that's a good thing. So hopefully I can help.
We appreciate that. That's for sure. I want to talk about what's going on at Kansas State and some other stuff here in just a second. But North Dakota State new president is a guy that you are familiar with, in Marshall Stewart. It just seems like the pipeline between Kansas State and North Dakota State just continues to grow. What can you tell us about the new president in town?
Yeah, I actually just saw him yesterday on the flight back into Fargo. So Marshall and I work very closely together at Kansas State. He's on our we call it KSA board. Obviously, was very instrumental in some of as the KSA board. He budget decisions, all those things. So coaches' contracts. So Marshall and I work very closely together. I was actually on the committee that helped him bring to Kansas State. One of the things that Marshall does really, really well is he understands the legislative side of things, in both state and federal. He's really good at that. Some of the dollars that he and his staff have been able to bring in to Kansas State since he's been there has been tremendous, and dollars that we haven't been able to bring before. So he understands that side of being the president. I think his demeanor and how he approaches things will be He's a very easy guy to get to know, a very easy guy to work with. He understands athletics, understands the importance of athletics. His wife, Jan, is phenomenal. So I think they'll be a great fit in Fargo, and I'm excited for him because I know that's what he wanted to do eventually. And when I heard he was one of the candidates, I was very happy for him and North Dakota State as well.
Yeah, it comes at an interesting time for him. This is a big time in North Dakota State history. President Cook did a great job of...
President Cook and he's now in the Big 12, so I get a chance to work with him. So
exactly. Wish the best of luck to President Stewart and all that he can do. But this is a big spot, to come into, isn't it?
It really is, and obviously, as a president, got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. When I sit down and talk to our president in Kansas State and realize, my little world of athletics is just a small piece of what he does. But I think Marshall's capable of handling it, and I think he's ready to handle it. But he will be, I think, a great fit here in Fargo and for North Dakota State.
That's great to hear. Gene Taylor joining us on this Wednesday morning. Let's pause. When we come back, more I want to touch on with Gene while he's here, including the Brendan Sorsby situation and also some stuff happening at Kansas State. So let's take a break here on this Wednesday morning. More to come when we come back on WDAY Extra. Welcome back to this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. Gene Taylor in studio with us to help get us through the middle of the week here. Great to have you on once again in town for Roger Maris All-Star Week. There has been one story that has dominated the news cycle for a couple of months now, and coming out of the Big 12, that's your territory, and that's the Brendan Sorsby gambling saga. And it's been an instance that you've been outspoken on, and we've somewhat come to a resolution.
I like the way he's outspoken.
Made some national headlines on this not too long ago. Somewhat of a resolution here. He's applying for the NFL supplemental draft. What is your take on all this?
Well, obviously, I think I was out at our national convention in Las Vegas, the NACDA convention, we call it, and when it broke. And I would say in college athletics and in general, this world of sport, the one thing we all can agree on is you cannot bet on your own sport. And in collegiate athletics, we have a rule: you can't bet on any sport that is sponsored by the NCAA. And the fact that, he admittedly had done that and sought an injunction, and the judge gave that to him, was really, really frustrating. And so for us in the industry, to know that there was a guy by the name of Pete Rose who can't get in the Hall of Fame because of what he did, that a judge is going to allow, and this wasn't about Brendan himself.
Right.
He's admitted he's got a problem. Good for him for speaking up and figuring it out, and good for Texas Tech to support him in this recovery phase, which is really important. We all do that with all of our athletes, whether it's drug abuse or whatever. We need to do everything we can. But this particular issue, for him to get an injunction to continue to play, was really, really frustrating. Now, fortunately, obviously, as a Big 12, we reacted. I think our commissioner and our presidents and chancellor did it the right way. We didn't overreact. We sat down, they took a step back, found out the best path to go. In the meantime, I'm still sure they were talking to Texas Tech about, guys, you sure you want to keep doing this? Mm-hmm. And the other frustrating thing is Tech kept kind of doubling down on it, in our opinion, and instead of stepping up and saying, okay, let's rethink this. So now at this point, he's admitted he's going to go to the supplemental draft, and we'll see. Apparently, there's still some things that could derail that. I don't know. But it just was really frustrating that a judge could see that this was the right move for college athletics and any sport across the country, because that's the one thing we all agree on. And it was loud. And I don't want to make it about him, because it's a bigger issue than. And if there other judges were to allow this to happen, it could really cause major issues across not only college athletics but across the industry as a whole.
It's just a slippery slope when you talk about gambling and athletes gambling. Jeff Kolpak and I talked about this week. Even not just gambling on the collegiate level, but for those gambling on the professional level, there's insider information that could be passed along. Yeah. These guys all know each other. There's a precedent there that was in jeopardy. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, and we've seen it at all levels. We've seen many athletes that have been punished, and not been able to play and continue to play. And we've even had it in our own conference with Iowa State having to have issues and release players and even staff for that matter. So that's the frustrating thing is that we had a judge who obviously had ties to Texas Tech and I think let his loyalties get in the way of what I think was a pretty clear-cut decision. And again, had that been able to continue, or if they would have been able to play this year if he hadn't chosen to go to the supplemental draft, it would have been a real challenge for the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. I liked in the filing there was a quote that said in an industry where not a lot of people agree on everything, this is a topic where everybody agrees on. The resolution to this, where eventually they said, okay, well, Brendan Sorsby's not going to play, he's going to apply for the supplemental draft. Was that kind of the best case scenario in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would have been the best case scenario. It would have been if Texas Tech would have said, whatever, but they didn't. And I get it. I mean, they feel like we've got to support him, through as much as they can. But, yeah, I think it's the best case. And I'm guessing that he'll get drafted. I think there's still some nuances within the supplemental draft of what can maybe potentially not – I don't know enough about it yet to what are the rules within that. But if he gets drafted, then fine. I still think he has a long road ahead of him. He still has to recover. He still has a major issue that he's dealing with from an addiction standpoint. And if he recovers and manages it, then he'll probably have a pretty good NFL career. If he doesn't, he'll have a very short NFL career.
Right. It's unfortunate that a young guy like that will essentially have that cloud looming over him, but at a point, you got to know right is right and wrong is wrong in these situations.
Right.
And from a Big 12 standpoint, what comes next now?
Well, I think, like I said, our commissioner, Brett Yormark, and our presidents and chancellors really managed that extremely well. Very proud of them, how they came to the resolution about going to the federal court. I think right now that's the next step. We had a meeting yesterday or Monday, I believe it was, about what are the next steps. And I think for now we just have to wait and see. The lawsuit is still in the federal courts. We're not going to pull that back from what I understand and just wait to see, does he ultimately get drafted? If he doesn't, what happens if he doesn't get drafted, or for some reason the supplemental draft doesn't happen? So I think there's still some questions out there, but for right now, we've as a conference made our statement. We've filed the lawsuit, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. I was very curious. It's a topic everybody's been talking about for the last couple of months now. I want to talk about some stuff happening at Kansas State before we let you go. Of course, Chris Kleiman, he's up here for Roger Maris All-Star Week as well. He announced his retirement last year, and I know that was an emotional deal for sure, but he's back as an advisor role. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's great. Obviously, coaches, I don't think he's regretted the decision. He's doing a lot of stuff for me from the committees that I sit on. We met again Monday and just talked about some of the stuff upcoming with the Football Oversight Committee. And then, I think he's just going to take a step back from football for the next few months and then see what happens when football season's over. But he's happy, he's relaxed, loving life, and he's a very talented football coach, but he's also very talented at a lot of other things, and he could do whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
When the time comes.
He deserves some time off. There's no doubt about that. You guys went and got Colin Klein to replace his spot. That's a name that college football fans remember. That's a pretty big name. What do you look forward to seeing him?
Yeah,
at the
like
helm?
I tell people, if I messed that higher up, I'd be in big trouble. I just like the way Colin approaches things. He's a favored son in Manhattan and Kansas State. He obviously had a great career, and I think if he coaches and he was there as an offensive coordinator, so there's so much familiarity, particularly with him and Avery, our quarterback. I think there's a potential for a lot of success down the road, but it's the first-time head coach. But we'll support him. But I think his runway is going to be pretty long at Kansas State with the fan base because they love him. They really do. He's just a wonderful person. He and Kleiman are really cut out of the same mold, the type of person they are and the type of coach and how they treat their athletes. And to me, that's really important.
Avery Johnson's a pretty good player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He really is, and he's a really good player. So their connection should help a lot this year.
That's good to hear. Outside of the football program, what else is going on in Kansas State athletics?
Well, obviously got a new basketball coach as well. He's come in and done a nice job. We'll see how the season is for him, but right now, just kind of working through a lot of our business right now and trying to adjust to the rapid change that we face in the industry from a day-to-day basis, and doing everything we can to stay competitive. The dollar amount keeps going up, and we need to keep figuring out a way to find those dollars, and that's probably the biggest challenge right now is finding the dollars to stay competitive right now.
Right. Gene, I appreciate you coming on and putting the work cap on. I know it's a fun week, and
it's fun. Happy to be here. It's good to be back.
Probably don't want to talk about work all the time. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the week with the Roger Maris All-Star Week, and it was great to have you on. I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. Gene Taylor, the Director of Athletics at Kansas State, joining us here on this Wednesday morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our Big 12 conversation. Baylor Dinger will join us, talk about her commitment to Utah. That's coming up next.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Fitting comeback here to start hour number 2. It's a West Fargo Cheyenne Mustang half hour, if you will. Big thank you to Gene Taylor, by the way, for joining us here on this Wednesday morning. Happy to be joined now by West Fargo Cheyenne star Baylor Dinger, who announced yesterday going to Utah. First of all, congratulations on that. Is this just a big weight lifted off your shoulders right now after making that announcement?
Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air almost. I had lined up a ton of calls, and then I got to cancel all of them. So I only had my call with Utah and then committed right away.
We'll touch on that in just a little bit, but it is to my understanding that this last month has been just go for you between traveling the country for camps. What has this summer been like for you so far?
A lot of airplanes. Like, we went back and forth, and we found out when we got home that we were actually in every single time zone in the U.S.
Wow.
So it's just been a lot of travel, and we've stayed in one hotel 2 nights in a row the whole time. Every other one was like a different hotel every single night.
So while you're out there, obviously you're competing in camps. Are you checking out schools at that point and speaking with coaches before this June 15th period where they can contact you? How did that all work?
Yeah, a lot of them would like fly in the night before, and like we'd go drive around their campus and stuff because a lot of them have like cool football stadiums. Like Clemson, we went around, the baseball stadium was open, so we walked in there, walked around, and then you'd go to camps, and then afterwards me and my mom would just like talk to the coaches for a while and like take photos and stuff.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I obviously you're busy and you're going around and stuff, but that's pretty cool to go around the country in the summer. There's worse ways to spend a summer, isn't there? Well, that's awesome that you were able to do that, and I saw the graphic that your parents went out of all the stops that you made across the country, and props to you. More time on an airplane than I think I would want, but good on you. Tell us the story with this. How fast moving was this whole recruitment process, and then ultimately coaches can reach out to you? You mentioned you're lining up these phone calls, and then you have a commitment. What was the timeline on all this?
Yeah, it was really fast. I didn't really stay up till midnight because, like, unlike some other sports, they usually just line up a call. They won't just call you right at midnight. So I went to bed, and I woke up, and I had, like, 10 text messages and a couple emails. So I just, like, started writing them down, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to put the bigger schools the first day just because usually they sign a bit faster.
Yeah.
So, like, I had Utah, UNI, SDSU, and Michigan the first day, and then I was going to, like, space out the ones the rest of the day. And then I had my call with Utah. It went super good. Like, loved the coaches. The whole coaching staff was on the call. And they met all my dogs. They're really big dog people down there. Super active. My call went super good, and they offered me a full-ride scholarship. But they were like, we have to offer someone else later today the same position, and if you don't commit, like, it's their spot. So my parents came home. We, like, talked. We called my recruiting coordinator, Susan, for a little bit, and then we were like, okay, like, this is what I want to do. So then we called back the coaches and committed right away.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
So I thought you and I were talking in the commercial break. Volleyball is a different animal because, like you said, there's potential for them to move on quickly if you decide to change your mind, right? Was that getting your brain spinning at all and just trying to make a decision quickly?
I was, like, lost because I still wanted to have, like, another phone call.
Yeah.
Then I was, like, thinking about it, and I was like, if someone else commits here, like, I'm going to be upset. And I was like, well, that's how I don't want to go there, because if another school did that and another libero committed, like, I wouldn't mind as much. But, like, I was like, if someone else commits here, like, I'm going to be very upset. So I'm going to do it before they do.
Was Utah on your radar before this whole process? I'm assuming you didn't grow up a Utah fan, if you know what I'm saying.
It was like they reached out. They had a call with Twyla, my club coach, and they had a call with Susan, my recruiting coordinator. And they just, like, asked a bunch of good questions and, like, about me and my family and my personal life. And so, like, they were on my radar a little bit, but I never been to Utah. I don't know much about it until I went to their camp, and then had a great camp and just fell in love.
Well, were you kind of surprised going out there, learning about the program and the facilities they have there? What can you say about your trip out to Utah?
It was very quick.
Yeah.
I was there for like 24 hours, but there's mountains all around, and it's so pretty. And their facilities were super nice. We got to see the locker room and the football field we got to go on, and it's massive. It was just super cool. I
was doing some studying on Utah volleyball, trying to brush up ahead of this interview here. Obviously, you're a libero, a very good one at that. Utah's head coach, Alyssa D'Erico, is an all-time libero from Penn State. Did that help in the decision at all, knowing that you're going to get some pretty good coaching here?
Yeah, she's a very good libero, and she's the one who trains the liberos. And so I was like, she's going to coach me very hard. She's very competitive, like, reminds me of myself a lot. So I was like, I want to play for her. Like, she's going to push me to be my best.
You also have a relationship with another decorated libero, in Lexi Rodriguez. Now you're going to be under the wing of two of some of the great in college volleyball. What does that mean for you?
It means a lot. They came up, did a camp last summer, 2 summers ago, and then she mentored me before I, like, had a ton of experience. So it was super cool, like, hearing from her how her recruiting process was, and that was before the June 15th date. So, like, it was way different, obviously, because she committed in 8th grade, so way before.
Wow.
And then she just, like, talked a lot about, like, recruiting and, like, how to put yourself out there, like, always talking, like, controlling the little things.
I see you're wearing the Utah sweatshirt. I was talking to your dad about this. We have the pictures that you posted when you announced your commitment to Utah. I understand you had to delay that a little bit because you didn't have Utah gear. Is that right? What's the story there?
I had my camp shirt, but it says, like, camp on it. And so I was like, I don't really want to post in this. So my dad made a couple phone calls and got some overnight shipping from Shields, and he got, like, everyone hoodies and T-shirts and all those things.
That's awesome. Well, good on Shields on getting the quick moving parts there and able to make that happen. Dad's a connected man, that's for sure. Are you planning a trip back out to Utah here over the next, you got a couple of years now before you're officially a member of the Utes, but are you planning on making trips to Utah to get acclimated to the area?
Yeah, I didn't get to see a ton of it because flew in, drove around campus, did a scavenger hunt, went to the football field, and went to camp and left. So we were talking about going there again after nationals, making my sister go to the camp, get her into the Utah program maybe. So I was just going to go back and see, like, more of the campus and, like, the town and stuff, because I didn't really get to do much while I was there. And then you can't go on visits until August. So, like, usually the official visits and stuff will be, like, later, but we'll go back probably in July.
When did it kind of come into your mind that, hey, I want to play college volleyball someday? Can you give us the backstory on that?
Yeah, I started volleyball kind of later than most people because I was, like, such a tomboy, and I was like, I want to play baseball, like, I want to do all this stuff. And my mom played volleyball in college, and she made me try it. And I started right after COVID, my 12s year, and 12s obviously is not the biggest volleyball year. But then my 13s year, we qualified for AAU and USA Nationals, and we got 5th at both of them, and it was in, like, Florida and Minneapolis, and it was just super fun. And at that point, I was like, I love the sport. Like, I want to play in college. I want to play at the next level. And then just started putting myself out there from there.
Wow. It's been super cool to see your journey so far. Obviously, you've earned it up to this point, and still a lot more to go, that's for sure. You are coming off of a state championship with West Fargo Cheyenne. Tell us about what that experience was like last fall.
It was so awesome. Our gym is just so competitive. We're, like, everyone's pushing each other every day. Like, if she gets an up, I'm going to get up. If she gets a kill, like, we're going to get a kill. And gets a little heated sometimes, and it has to separate us. But it's, like, everyone pushes everyone, and it just, like, drives us to be better. So that helps us a lot.
So that's kind of the secret there to West Fargo Cheyenne. What can you tell us? So we're watching some of the video here from the championship match against Bismarck Century. What was going through your head as you were competing in that?
Oh, well, Century beat us last year in the state championship my freshman year. So obviously we needed our redemption, and we knew in the semifinals match it was Davies versus West Fargo, who are kind of our rivals. So we were like, we can't let them win it. Like, we need to beat Century so we can play one of them and have our redemption, because we lost to, obviously, West Fargo and EDC, and we didn't beat Davies the whole regular season. So we had to make it there just to get our redemption, and then obviously we did that.
And it worked out well for you guys. Can we expect more of the same this season for West Fargo Cheyenne volleyball?
Yes, we've already started our camps and stuff, and everyone's just as competitive, not more, as last year. And we have the same coaching staff. Everyone's returning, because there was lots of coaching changes in the EDC, but Newt's staying with us, and she's coming back. And we only graduated 3 seniors, so yeah.
Well, some of them are going off to play at the next level as well, and it's going to be interesting to see what you guys do. Again, Baylor Dinger from West Fargo Cheyenne joining us after announcing her commitment to Utah yesterday. Now, a couple of weeks ago, your brother and West Fargo Cheyenne were playing in the state baseball tournament while you were out across the country. Were you able to follow along with that at all?
Yeah, I was in the middle of a coach's showcase in Oregon, and the game started at 2 Minot time, but it was like 12 Oregon time.
Okay.
So I was able to watch from, our lunch was 12 to 2, and I was able to watch like almost the whole entire game until I went back to lunch.
Okay. Did you see your brother hit the home run in the semi, or was it the semis? Yes, it was.
The semis,
yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, we were on the airplane flying to Oregon during that, and my mom was not watching our offense that game because she thought she was bad luck and she was so nervous. So I was just watching it, and then it was glitching because obviously we're on an airplane, so it's not the best quality. And then she starts like screaming, and everyone's looking at us on the airplane, but it was super cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad you were able to see that. It was a great run for your brother Hudson, who's going to North Dakota State, and obviously your classmates over at West Fargo Cheyenne coming up just short, but we'll have an opportunity to do it again next year. Circling back to you and your volleyball career so far, it's been really impressive to watch from afar, and you're still very young. Single-season digs record, you got that locked up. You've led the state in digs for the last 2 years. You even broken state championship match records as well. How do you describe your high school career so far? This has been really impressive.
I mean, it's been unreal, but all my support and stuff from my teammates has obviously just helped me so much. And like, digs count. Like, if they get a touch on the block and I pass it, it still counts as a dig. So, like, just knowing I have a good block up where I'm not going to get absolutely lit up and it's, like, can be easier passes gives me more confidence.
Libero, right, or defensive specialist, that's kind of your forte. Was that something you always wanted to get to when you got into this? I feel like everybody wants to be an outside hitter or attacker or something. How'd you get into this position?
Well, originally I was forced to be a setter, and I was not very good at it. And then my 12th year I was an outside, and I liked hitting, and then my 13th year, Twyla put me as a libero, and I was not happy with her. And then, like, after the first 2 months, I loved it, and I've been a libero since.
What goes into being good at this position?
Communication.
Okay.
You need to talk. Like, everyone needs to know where you are, and you just need to take control of the court and, like, tell everyone where everyone is, because you can see the whole court from where you are. So you just need to make sure you're loud and, like, doing the little things.
Going back to the level of play across North Dakota that you see all the time, how would you describe that? It seems like the quality of athlete, not just in volleyball, but every sport is so good. The competition you go up against throughout the regular season with Cheyenne, how would you describe that?
I mean, it's super good. I think it just makes us better, like, every time we play, and we love to get beat because it makes us better and it fuels us. So I think that's great. And there's, like, obviously a lot of Ellie's going to UND, Raina's going to Maryland, Sylvia's going to Augustana. Like, there's lots of D1 and D2 volleyball players who are all very talented, so it's just fun to play against them and push us.
What does the rest of the summer look like for you?
Well, we have nationals coming up in 2 weeks with my club team. It's in Indianapolis. After that, we'll go back to Utah, but it's kind of more relaxed now and less camps and stuff.
Finally get an opportunity to take a breather a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good to hear. Well, I appreciate you taking some time. I know you got practice going on right now, so we'll let you get to it. Baylor Dinger joining us on this Wednesday morning after announcing her commitment to Utah. Congratulations on that. Best of luck this season.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have more on Hot Mic when we come back on this Wednesday morning. Get you a little bit of a World Cup update in just a moment. Also, a reminder, Brad Schlossman joining us from the Grand Forks Herald at 10:35. Preview of the NHL draft coming up to help wrap up the show this morning. That's coming up when we come back on WDAY Extra. We are cruising along on this Wednesday morning. Clouds starting to come in a little bit here. Seems like every day this week started off beautiful, and then it's got treacherous towards the end. When is it just going to be nice for a while? It's been a good start to this morning so far. Once again, a big thank you to Gene Taylor, the Director of Athletics at Kansas State, for joining us and sharing his 2 cents on everything going on with North Dakota State, also the environment of college athletics, the Brendan Sorsby situation. That was a great conversation with Gene Taylor, who's in town for Roger Maris All-Star Week, and happy that he was able to give a couple of minutes to us and come in studio this morning. That was fantastic. If you missed any of that, you can podcast it later on and also check it out on YouTube later on today. Also, a big thank you to Baylor Dinger, who we just had on this morning after her commitment to Utah. Super fun player to watch. Her brother, the same, who's going to play baseball at North Dakota State, had a really good showing at the state baseball tournament in Class A in Minot a couple weeks ago. I had the privilege of calling that tournament, and Hudson is going to go to NDSU to be a PO, a pitcher only, but was not able to pitch in that tournament because he was dealing with a torn UCL and actually went down to Texas to get Tommy John surgery, and it just so happened to work out for the Dinger family that they were able to all be in Texas at the same time. As you heard, Baylor was traveling across the country. So looking forward to seeing what Hudson can do at NDSU next year and what Baylor can do with West Fargo Cheyenne before she makes her way to Utah in a couple of years. Some things I wanted to circle back on. Reminder, Brad Schlossman joining us here at the bottom of the hour to talk all things happening in the world of hockey. Just to go back on the Brendan Sorsby deal for a little bit, and Gene alluded to it while he was in studio today, that there is still some stuff up in the air. I know a lot of people have said that, this has finally come to a resolution. I don't think we've come to the bookend of this situation yet. He has applied for the NFL supplemental draft, and we gave you the full rundown of what that draft is. Essentially, he can put his name in. NFL teams will then go through the process of it's essentially a silent auction, if you will, and whoever wants to give up the best draft pick possible for this upcoming year has the opportunity to get whoever is in the supplemental draft. It first started in 1977. There have been some big names who have come through that process to make it to the pros, and maybe Sorsby is next. Now, there still is the possibility where the NFL could say, we're going to deny this application. No, I don't know what the grounds are for them to be able to do that, but that is still a possibility. And that's why when you heard Gene say that they're still keeping this lawsuit open, the lawsuit that the Big 12 filed on this situation, just in case that does come up and maybe he tries to make a run back at going back to the college level, that's still in the works. So I still think we're in a long way from a full resolution on that. And even if it does work, where he is able to go through the supplemental draft and eventually get picked up by a team potentially, then we're still going to be talking about this for a long time. It's an unprecedented thing. A college athlete putting up over $90,000 in sports bets, some of that including on a team that he was on when he started his college career in Indiana. It's a wild deal. If it were to go through and he were able to play, just imagine the conversations that would have sparked throughout this college football season, or the outcomes that would have come after all of this. It would have been mayhem. So there's been some firmness on this. We will not let this slide. And, of course, Gene Taylor, Kansas State, and the other members of the Big 12, a big part of that. If I'm not mistaken, if he is approved, Brendan Sorsby that is, to make his way into the supplemental draft cleanly, I believe there will be a pro day July 10th. I think that's what I heard down at Texas Tech, an opportunity for him to get in front of scouts. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of questions to answer and show off his arm. And like we've been saying all week, he's not a bad quarterback. one of the best in this upcoming, what would have been one of the best in this upcoming draft class that is loaded with quarterbacks this year. So I feel like he would have been one of the first ones to come off if everything was clean and come off the board if everything was clean and he was able to play this season with Texas Tech. There's a reason why he was going to get paid $5 to $6 million, whatever it was in NIL. Now, is the team going to cough up a draft pick, a high draft pick, and hope that this is their guy for the future? Who knows? Me being a Colts fan, I'm curious about this. I don't love the idea. We got a pretty good, I shouldn't say good. It's an okay quarterback room right now with Daniel Jones, who's got a bionic leg at the moment, and then Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, who's been around the team for a while. Anthony Richardson, I don't know how long he's going to be in. By the way, Eric, who's in the back, I think your Packers might be in the hunt for Anthony Richardson. That would be interesting. But also Easton Stick, North Dakota State guy, he's on the Indianapolis Colts now. He's currently in the 4th spot of the QB depth chart for the Colts. Going to wear number 4 this year in case you wanted to go out and buy an Easton Stick jersey in the blue and white. I think he could slide up if Anthony Richardson decides to part ways, or if the team decides to part way with Anthony Richardson. But I don't know, is Sorsby a guy that the Colts want to take a chance on? I think some other teams that come to mind, the Lions are one for sure. I don't think the Vikings, obviously, if they did, I think we gotta raise some questions on Nolan Teasley, who just came in, if they decide to go with the Brendan Sorsby route, considering how congested that quarterback room is right now, and how awkward it is between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. I would be absolutely befuddled if they decide to go with Sorsby this route, but who knows? You never know. But that's kind of the latest on that with the Brendan Sorsby deal. Now, also happening this week is the World Cup. I've given my 2 cents on that over the last couple of days. I'm not the when it comes to college soccer, North Dakota State, Summit League soccer, I'm all in. I'm all for it. World Cup, that is just that's a massive world that I have not taken the time to really learn. This World Cup, however, now that it's being hosted in North America, has been pretty interesting, pretty intriguing. We told you yesterday about the Spain-Cape Verde game, and somehow Cape Verde, a population of, 500,000 or something like that off of the coast of Africa, if I'm not mistaken. I had to do some digging, and it's already escaping my brain exactly where Cape Verde is. But they were able to shut down the juggernauts of Spain. That's been the biggest story so far. Ran their way to a 0 or 0-0 draw, as they say. We've been seeing these things. We were looking at it in the commercial break. The Cape Verde goalkeeper is 40 years old, by the way, and if you saw the highlights of the game and saw some of the saves that he was making, that's really impressive for a 40-year-old to be able to do that. But I believe his social media following is skyrocketed to like 9 million, and it was like 200,000 or something like that beforehand, and now 9 million after his thing. What did you say, Ben? 50K for what? Oh, he started at 50K and now he's at 9 million. So that's people care. People are out there watching, that's for sure. Yesterday we had a good slate of games. France and Senegal. Mbappe, I know that name. He's pretty good. He scored a goal. 3-1 win for France over Senegal. And Norway getting the win. Holland, his first name's blanking me, but this Holland guy I keep seeing all over the place, he's pretty good. He scored a goal as well. May have scored 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken. But Norway getting the win 4-1 over Iraq. And Argentina with a win over Algeria yesterday, 3-0. All 3 of those goals coming by way of Lionel Messi. That's a name I do know. If I'm not mistaken, oldest guy to have a hat trick in the World Cup. How many more of these is he going to play? Is he kind of on the tail end of his career? I'm not 100% sure. But At some point over the next couple of days, I'm going to get a guy in here that knows what they're talking about when it comes to the World Cup. So we'll give you a better recap of what is happening so far. Of course, the USA has already won. They will play again on Friday against Australia. So looking forward to that game. All right, let's take another break here on this Wednesday morning. When we come back, we're chatting hockey with our guy, Brad Schlossman. A lot going on in the back part of June. Stanley Cup playoffs have come to a close. NHL draft coming up. Minnesota Wild have some big decisions to make. We'll touch on all that with Brad when we come back.
Time to chat some hockey.
Shot score! North Dakota wins!
The best college hockey writer in the country is on deck.
North Dakota, champions of the college hockey world!
Here's Brad Schlossman.
Back-to-back weeks, we're able to hear that intro. It is a busy time in the world of hockey as we welcome on Brad Schlossman from the Grand Forks Herald. Great to see you, man. This is, you would think for the end of June, things would be quiet, but that is just not the case this year, is it?
No. You always have the draft at the end of June. Not always does North Dakota have two guys who are going to go in the top half of the first round. So I think that's changing it a little bit this year and makes for a far more newsworthy summer. The other thing that, the Stanley Cup final just wrapped up, and not always do you have a North Dakota guy that leads the Stanley Cup winning team in scoring. Right. So it has been a busy June. And then, the ECHL playoffs just got over to former North Dakota goalie Cam Johnson won the Kelly Cup for the fourth time in 5 years. He was the MVP again in that. So that's the third time he's been the MVP. First guy ever to win 3 playoff MVPs in that league. So between Jackson Blake, Cam Johnson, and then you've got Keaton Verhoff and Carson Karls going in the first round of the NHL draft. You're right. It is a busier than normal June for hockey in this area.
No doubt. You are keeping busy, that's for sure. Florida Everblades, they won the ECHL this year, didn't they?
Yep. So I think Cam just loves hanging out in Florida. Like everyone's wondering, how does this guy not get called up by now? And, I need to get a hold of him. And I guess that's one of my questions. Do you want to get called up?
Yeah, right.
Is he just living the life in Florida? He's a legend there now. He's won 4 titles for them. I think he likes just playing in South Florida, and his friends have nicknamed him the King of the Coast now. So
definitely worse places to be. That's for sure. That's a great update on him. I'm glad he's doing well. I want to get your thoughts on Carolina winning the Cup this year. And I know you've had a front row seat to Jackson Blake for a long time. Are you surprised by his performance and what he was able to do in the playoffs at all? I
think if you were to ask everyone in Grand Forks when he signed, within 2 years, is he going to be leading the Stanley Cup winners in scoring? If someone told you yes, they're lying to you. That's just really hard to predict. And he was great here. And he had all sorts of, his skill level was off the charts. His smarts were off the charts. But he's a smaller guy. He's a smaller stature too. And I think you're wondering, how does this translate to the NHL? Like, he was not a sure bet when he signed. And I think I even had wondered, is he going to spend a year in the American League? And, looking back on it now, it's easy to say, oh man, how did we not see this? Like, he was that skilled. He was that smart. But in the moment, I don't think, if you're being honest, you would have said that we saw this coming.
Yeah.
It's, he just is, the one thing I think that I've learned from Jackson Blake and from others is that sometimes if you're a really smart player, even if you're undersized or maybe aren't the most explosive skater, and you get into the NHL and you're around other players who can read off of you or who are just as smart, that translates. And I think that is one thing where I'm like, that's what I should have read, is that he's just so smart and he always knows the next play. And the other thing, when I talked to Dane Jackson, he said he's just so competitive. And he has such a belief that he is, he would attack guys. He could get to the middle of the ice. And those type of things translate. And just the competitiveness, the goal that his line scored in the clincher.
Yeah.
That was just Logan Stankoven and Jackson Blake were just relentless on that shift.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things if you're going to be a smaller player, you better be smart and you better be relentless. And Jackson Blake is both those things in spades. So, unbelievable the way he has just stepped in and been so good. And the way he was able to, lead the team, and playoffs are different than the regular season.
Right.
The regular season, things are sometimes a little bit looser. It's a little easier to generate offense. In playoffs, it's hard to score. And the way he was able to lead the team in scoring is just so telling on what a fantastic player he is and how competitive he is and how he can thrive when things get hard. So really impressed with the way he did it. If people tell you they saw that coming, I think most people are probably lying. We knew he was great. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
We knew he was great. But to do this in year two, I mean, that's
20 points in the playoffs to lead the way for the championship-winning team is nothing to scoff at. I think Mr. Blake's going to be a fixture in the NHL for a while now. That's for sure. I want to talk about the NHL draft that's coming up next Friday and Saturday. You and Dom touched on it a little bit last week. This is an unprecedented time for the University of North Dakota and their hockey team, potentially having two guys going in the top 10. We'll touch on them in a second, but I am under the understanding, and I think everybody is, that it's Gavin McKenna at number 1, and that is signed, sealed, and delivered. Is that right?
I think he's going number 1. I wouldn't go as far as signed, sealed, and delivered.
Okay.
I don't think this is a Macklin Celebrini draft, or there are certain years where it's like this is really easy call. Connor Bedard. We all knew Connor Bedard was going on. There are teams in the NHL who do not have Gavin McKenna at number 1. That I know for a fact. The question is, what do the Toronto Maple Leafs have?
Yes.
I would lean toward, if you made me bet on that, I would say he is going number 1. But I don't think every team in the NHL believes that. And so I think that's something that makes it really interesting. A lot of teams, the more premium positions are center and D. And Gavin McKenna's a winger. And Ivar Stenberg, who is also fantastic, and who at least one team in the NHL has Ivar Stenberg at number 1. He's also a winger. So what do you want in the draft? Do you want a center? Do you want a defenseman? Or are you going to go with dynamic winger? There's a lot of different options for teams to go this year. In talking to scouts, there are a lot of different teams that have very, very different boards, which I don't think is always the case among the top 10. Okay. Once you get beyond that, then you start getting into vastly different opinions usually. This year, even in the top 10, you talk to different scouts and boy, do they have differing opinions.
Yeah. Well, Gavin McKenna is a guy that made national headlines this last season for an off-ice issue that happened after a game. Is that something that we could see a fall in the draft because of that?
Yeah, I don't think any teams are worried about that.
Okay.
I guess the incident you're referring to was, I think the teams believe that, he was kind of being antagonized and him and his family were being antagonized, and Gavin went and punched someone for it. And I think the teams kind of were like, okay.
Right. He's just standing up for his family.
I think, I think they're more concerned how does it look? And we get back to our conversation about the regular season and playoffs. Gavin McKenna, the reason I would take him number 1 is because of how smart he is. And again, like I said, when you have smart players around, he's always going to put up 80 points. Like, he is a guy that is going to score. The reason you question whether to take him number 1 or why you might not is because, is he going to score in the playoffs when things get harder? And can he generate when things get really hard? Because sometimes that's where he has run into roadblocks this year. And so I think that's what teams are debating. Like, the argument for him is because he's really smart, really skilled, he'll translate. The argument against him is, are you going to win a Stanley Cup? Are you more likely to win a Stanley Cup with Keaton Verhoff on the back end or Carson Carls on the back end than you are with Gavin Penn up front. I think that's a worthwhile debate to have.
Interesting. Speaking of Keaton Verhoff and Carson Carls, a couple of guys with ties to NDSU. Carson on his way, Keaton there now. Are we still thinking top 10 for this, or has there been some movement that you've heard?
I think we're still looking at top 10 for both of them. Of course, nothing totally shocks me. If one of those guys falls out of the top 10, I think that would surprise me quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
I do think they're top 10. I would lean toward top 5, but it also wouldn't surprise me. Again, these are guys who I've talked to teams, and they have very different opinions of where the defensemen. So there are like 5 or 6 defensemen at the top of the draft, and those are 2 of them. And then you've got Albert Smits, who's a European from Latvia. You've got Chase Reed. There is Daxon Rudolph. There are a bunch of guys who are going to go in that range. And when you talk to different teams, some guys have one of them at number 1 of those D. And then some other teams have that same guy as the 5th of those 5. So it just depends on where those exact teams are drafting and what's there. So I think that's what's interesting about the top of the draft this year.
Okay. We'll keep our tabs. Again, the NHL draft coming up next Friday and Saturday. It's out in Buffalo this year. Buffalo's been a hotbed for hockey this past season, that's for sure. Are there other guys with ties to UND that we could hear their names called over next weekend?
Yeah, Ethan McKenzie's a defenseman who's going to be coming in next season. He'll go, my guess would be somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd rounds, maybe 4th, but he's going to join that blue line with Carson Carls, Keaton Verhoff, EJ Emery's already been drafted in the 1st round. Sam Larilla had a great year last year. I mean, it's a really, really young blue line. But a really talented blue line. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I think McKenzie's going to go pretty high. I think you're going to see Braden Klimke and Cooper Williams, who play for the Saskatoon Blades. They're going back to Saskatoon next year. They'll likely get picked. They'll go back to junior and then come the following year. And then the one guy who's not getting a lot of buzz, who I think there's a chance he gets picked, is Connor Davis. He's going to be a forward coming in this season. He played at Cedar Rapids in the USHL last year. And I do think there's some interest in Connor Davis, and I would not be surprised if he ends up getting selected on day 2.
Okay. So what I gathered from that, it seems like a cakewalk for UND to win the national championship next year. Is that an overreaction?
You know what? I've been going through college hockey rosters. And one of my off-season exercises is I do mock line charts for every team. And that's kind of how I do my predictions.
Yeah.
And one thing that just jumped off the page to me this year is how good everybody is getting. Okay. With the CHL players available, I'm looking at these rosters, and I'm guessing you're going to have at least 15 coaches that are coming into the season being like, this is the best we've been in my time at the school. Like, we're going to be great. But the problem is everybody's great.
Right.
Like, everyone benefited. The guys who I'm mocking in on 4th lines, I'm like, oh my goodness. I've come across like 10 teams where I'm like, this team is loaded. And I'm like, well, one of these teams is going to be at least 10th because I've got 10 of them that are really good. So, the difference is that between winning a national title and going out in the 1st round are just so small. The differences at the top, I really think are going to be tiny this year.
Interesting. Okay.
It's going to be a loaded group of teams at the top. And it's all because the CHL has these rosters booming. Look at UND's draft picks we're talking about.
Yeah.
Keaton Verhoff wouldn't have been eligible 3 years ago. Carson Carls wouldn't have been eligible. Ethan McKenzie wouldn't have been eligible. Braden Klimke wouldn't have been eligible. Cooper Williams wouldn't have been eligible. Like, all these guys.
It's unbelievable.
Cole Reshny, who's on the team right now and making a huge impact. Jan Spunar, the goaltender, who is the goalie of the year last year. All these guys wouldn't have been eligible 2 years ago. And the rule change has just made everybody so good. And college hockey is in a wonderful spot right now.
That's fantastic to hear. And now they got a win on the age-based eligibility as well. And I know you and Dom talked about that last week, but just a good time to be a college hockey fan, that's for sure. Real quick, before we let you go, we got to get to a break here in just a little bit. Have you followed along with the Wild? What do they need? What do the Wild need to do in the offseason for it to be a successful time frame for them?
I think they need to probably find one more center.
Okay.
It's a really good question. I mean, they're pretty good. Some of the injuries they had in the playoffs definitely were impactful. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a big move. Clearly, Bill Guerin feels they're not super far away, and they're going for it. Like, they only have Quinn Hughes, one more year?
Yeah,
Maybe they'll resign him. That could, but
we don't know that. Yeah, right. That would be ideal.
You better take your swing right now.
Yes, absolutely. So we thinking potential for Dylan Larkin, or is Austin Matthews a little far-fetched?
Yeah, I mean, I would be exploring all those opportunities right now if I was Bill Guerin. Like, you've got Kaprizov in his prime. You've got Quinn Hughes in his prime. Like, this is when you take your swing. So it'll be a very fascinating offseason for the Minnesota Wild.
All right. Interesting. Brad, I appreciate your time. Always great to catch up with you, especially now that it is a busy June in the world of hockey. Enjoy somewhat of a break that you can, and we'll chat with you soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam.
Brad Schlossman from the Grand Forks Herald joining us here on this Wednesday morning. Some great nuggets of information there, that's for sure. Great time to be a college hockey fan. Could you imagine Austin Matthews on the Wild? That would be awesome. I would love that. I would love Dylan Larkin on the team, too. That would be super cool. All right, we are due for a break. We only got a couple minutes left in the show, so let's step aside when we come back into our What to Watch, and then we are out the door on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. A little breaking news to wrap up this action-packed Wednesday morning on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. This coming out of the WNBA, they are expanding to 50 games. If I'm not mistaken, they are at 44 now. Now they're going to go to 50. Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, saying demand for the WNBA has never been greater, and expanding to a 50-game regular season reflects the extraordinary momentum we are seeing across the league. The move reflects our commitment to growing the game and creating more opportunities for fans to watch the best players in the world and experience the extraordinary talent and competition that define the WNBA. So some big news there out of that league. Of course, the Minnesota Lynx, dominant in the WNBA so far this year. They're 11-3 right now. They had the day off yesterday. They're back in action tonight, which we'll get into in just a second. We'll give you a Lynx update on the show tomorrow. So there's the breaking news to help wrap up this Wednesday morning. With that being said, let's get into our What to Watch and then get out the door as we get ready for an action-packed Wednesday night. Speaking of Minnesota, you see it there in the middle of the graphic. They are taking on Los Angeles. It's a late start time for that. 9 o'clock on Victory Plus, so you can watch the Lynx, who are atop of the WNBA. Los Angeles is in the 8th spot right now. They're an even 500 at 7-7, 4 games back of Minnesota in first place. College World Series games happening today. North Carolina and West Virginia in a couple of hours. Big game for West Virginia. Need to win 2 to advance to the championship series. North Carolina, they just need to win once. 1 o'clock start time for that on ESPN. The other game in the College World Series is Georgia and Oklahoma. Same deal there. Georgia needs to win 2. Oklahoma needs to win 1. That game is later on tonight, 7 o'clock if I'm not mistaken, on ESPN. Also in World Cup action, England and Croatia. 3 o'clock on Fox this afternoon. So far in the World Cup games that I've put on our What to Watch portion of the show, they have answered the bell. They have been exciting games to watch. So we'll see if England and Croatia does the same. With that being said, that'll wrap things up on this Wednesday morning. Big thank you once again to Gene Taylor, the Director of Athletics for Kansas State, for joining us this morning. taking some time out of his busy schedule. It's been a busy run for him and all the members of the Big 12 and the FBS Oversight Committee. It has been go, 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 and now he's in town for the Roger Maris All-Star Week. Grateful that he was able to stop by studio for a couple of minutes and chat about the latest topics happening around NDSU and college athletics. So that was great. If you missed that, you can catch it on our website, inform.com, and on YouTube as well. Also want to say thanks again to Baylor Dinger for joining us as well, the West Fargo Cheyenne Star. She announced her commitment to Utah yesterday. She's got a couple of years left with the Mustangs, but then we'll make her way over to the Utes after that. And also big thank you to Brad Schlossman for joining us as well. Great time to be a college hockey fan in general. We're going to have more hockey topics on the show tomorrow. We got a burning debate that we need to settle. We're going to get to that tomorrow. So big thank you to Brad for joining us this morning from the Grand Forks Herald. That'll do it for us. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it, watch it back on YouTube, and all that great stuff. Appreciate you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.